Hey, Sisterhood ladies, welcome back. We're so excited for our new video series called Hurry Up God. This will be a series of courageous conversations where we focus on times and seasons where we had to wait on God. I mean, nobody likes waiting on God, right? But the truth is, He's really waiting on us. But while we're waiting, do we get discouraged? What are our conversations with like God? Do we complain? How do we wait on the Lord? And what do you do while you're waiting? How do you cope? So, to begin this series, I have a dear personal friend named Jessica Clarke, who I've known for 15 years. We're going to talk a little bit about how we've gotten to know each other, but she's here to share her story and her journey on this topic on Hurry Up God. She attends Life Church Macungie. She's currently serves as a producer. Welcome, Jessica, to Sisterhood at Life Church Allentown. How long have you been a member of Life Church?
18 years, a little over 18 years. So we came in as Church on the Move, and then obviously now Life Church. And we attended Allentown until the split. And when they opened up Macungie, I live in Macungie, so it just made sense. The church is 3 to 5 minutes away from my house. So it made sense for us to start attending Life Church Macungie.
Awesome. And so let's talk about how our history, how we've gotten to know each other. I know I said 15 years, and I always think it's funny because when I first met you, and I know you're okay with this because
yes,
you say it all inside,
yeah.
But G and D were really good friends, and we were introduced to each other. And the first time I met you, I was like, oh, she seems conceited or stuck up, or what's her deal? And but oh my gosh, it's proof that you can't judge a book by its cover, because I feel horrible for thinking those thoughts, because you are such a beautiful soul and such a beautiful support to me and my husband. As most people may not know or do know, aside from being co-campus pastors at Life Church Allentown, we do have two nonprofits, Children at Promise and the Champion Center, and Jessica is the glue that keeps that together. She is like the crazy glue, or she's the glue that keeps the crazy together. I don't know how everyone to describe it, but she's our business administrator. She handles the money, the paperwork, just all kinds of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about how we know each other.
Yeah, so obviously our husbands knew each other. So coming to church, my husband recognized your husband right away. And they formed, a friendship that had been separated for a long time. And so just, I saw your kids actually, your girls are around the same age as my son. So, activities at church, they went to school together for a little bit. So, we would see each other, but our friendship, I feel, really evolved when I started working for you. So Carmen was asked to be the children's ministry director, and only God, because I did not want to work for the church, somehow I ended up being her assistant. And so we did that for 3 years at Life Church. And then from there, she asked if I would want a position at the Learning Center. At the time it was just bookkeeper, and I was like, sure, sounds great. That would work for me. So, and then that obviously evolved, and now it's a bigger position, but I felt like in that 14 years that we have worked together, our friendship is way more important to me than the work relationship. I love Carmen. She's my rock. She's, everything that a friend should be is what she is. And we complement each other. Sometimes we're too similar, and that's not always good, especially in business. It's not always good to be on the same page all the time, but we really complement each other in so many ways. So
yeah. I echo the same sentiments. Jessica is just a gem. What I love about her, she's not a yes person. She's not afraid to say the hard thing. She's not afraid to speak her opinion, even if it goes against everybody else's in the room. And I love that quality about her. She's just such a support, such a strength. And obviously when you work together for 15 years, I'm the kind of person that I don't like to use the word meddle, but I do. I meddle and I get involved in more than just the business. It's like, well, how are you doing? How are your kids? How's your life? How's your marriage? And so those are the kind of conversations that we have all the time. And so recently, and let's just dive right into it. Let's talk about what hard and painful situation have you been dealing with, Jess? Let's talk about that a little bit.
So not too recently. So actually January 25th, 2019, my husband walked into our bedroom that morning and said, we shouldn't be together anymore and I want a divorce. And it completely took me off guard. I had no idea this was coming. We had been struggling. We had been arguing. We had gone through the silent treatment for quite a while. It had been months, but that we had battled. I mean, we'd been married for 25 years at that point. So who after 25 years does not go through hard times? So, we had gone through many hard times up to that point. So I just thought this was another season. We'll get through it. We have great support system. We have great married friends who could help us. And, we're an intricate part of being there for us and speaking into our lives. But that just took me off guard. I had no idea that this was about to really rock my world and change everything. And there was no talking him out of it. He had already made up his mind. He was ready to move on and end the relationship. So, like any woman who has been married for 25 years, who's a Christian woman and thinks, it is never going to happen to me because I serve God and I believe in Jesus, and divorce doesn't happen in the church. It happens. Things happen, and so for a 10-hour to 15-hour period, I felt like my world was over. I didn't know how I was going to move forward with my life. So it was completely devastating.
And I remember getting that text message, getting then a phone call later, and just deer in headlights myself. I know that you I know that was really hard to say that. I know that was really hard to say that on this Zoom at this moment. One thing that I want to mention or bring up is, can you just give a little backstory? Like,
Sure.
You said many hard times before.
Yeah. So
what were those hard times? What did that look like?
So even before we were Christians, before the 18 years, so the 6 to 7 years prior to us saying yes to Jesus, we struggled in our marriage. We were young. I was 17 when I got married. I was a senior in high school. When I got married, I was pregnant with my son, and he's in the military, so we moved around a lot, and it was just a struggle. First of all, being married in general is a struggle. It's a challenge. It's a battle sometimes. And being married without Christ, forget it. It's almost impossible to do it. And so we like any couple who doesn't know God, decided we were going to do our own thing, and we did our own thing. We were, out in the world and living life as two young 20-year-olds and not really caring about each other and each other's feelings. And so at a point, we were going to divorce. The divorce papers were on the table. We were ready. And then God jumped in. Like, he didn't want it for us. My husband found Christ first. And even though he found Christ, he was a new believer. And, he didn't know how to respond to this at the very beginning as a Christian. And so he used it as a weapon, not as love. And so, but God had bigger plans, and he was like, you guys aren't breaking up. That's not what I want for this marriage, for your family. And he fought for us when we didn't even know how to fight. And we decided not to divorce, and we came back together, and we had a daughter in the midst of after that. So, our family was happy and everything was great. But then years later, about 10 years from today, there was an affair that happened, and my world came crumbling down again, because in the Christian world, that's just not supposed to happen, right? So, but we moved on from that. Again, I always say, I just feel like God continues to fight for this marriage, and I don't understand it, and I don't know why, but he continues to do that for us. And I'm thankful he has, because it's important for me to stay married. I don't want to be like the generations behind us who have divorced over and over. I want my family together whole.
Yeah.
So it's been a hard journey for us. It hasn't
Yeah.
been an easy marriage.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Jess. So now that January hits, all this happens, the discussion happens, and now you are living out one day at a time. And let me just say, Jessica never missed work, never called in, never took a mental health day. I was waiting for it. I'm a woman. I know what I would do. Well, I think I know what I would do, but so did you do something different this time as you approach the situation? Now you're approaching the situation. A lot of times we don't have a strategy, right? We have to kind of make one up as the drama unfolds, as the pain unfolds. So what was your strategy? What did you do differently this time?
So this time was completely different. From the moment after the shock of it, and I don't even know that the shock wore off until months later, honestly, and I could finally the next morning wake up and kind of figure out what am I going to do? I just knew at that moment, whatever I did, God had to lead this. I'm a woman, and I'm speaking to a room full of women, and we are controlling, and we like things done our way, and we think our way is the best way. And that has always been my mantra. I have always tried to control every situation that I was in. And I just knew, for whatever reason, that was not going to be the case this time. That this time I was going to have to give up complete control over everything that was about to happen, and God was going to have to lead wherever I was going to go. So that was huge, because that even in the past situations, whether with my kids or my husband or whatever, where there's been struggle, trial situations, I've never allowed God to lead that. I've always been like, all right, I'm going to lead, and you're right behind me, God. So when I mess up, you're there to jump in. It was, no, God, you're in the lead and I'm following you. So I'm along for the ride. Take my hand and walk me out. So that was the first thing that I decided to do differently. I also decided that there were tools that I needed to implement this time, that it wasn't just going to be like, okay, God, you're in control and just do it. I knew that I had a part to play. I knew that there were going to be things that I needed to do. And God showed up and showed me right away what those tools were going to be. So he immediately, I heard, you're going to start fasting. And I was like, fasting? I don't want to fast. Like, okay, I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to be obedient. I'm just going to do it, even though it seems so hard and it seems so out of character for me. I'm just going to be obedient. Whatever you say, God, I'm going to do. And so, okay, I'm going to fast. And then he said, and you're going to pray, and you're going to be on your knees, and you are going to memorize scripture, and you are going to find those scriptures that you can stand on and believe on and hope for. And I did that. He said, you're going to surround yourself with a group of women who are going to be able to support you through this. So I had my hype squad. I had those women in my life who I only told a few people. I just felt like I needed to keep this personal and private right at the beginning. I needed to protect my husband. That was, and people were shocked by that. They were like, protect him? What do you mean? You know, they couldn't understand that at the beginning, but I just knew I had to protect him. This was not the man I married. Who I was dealing with was something totally off of the man that I had known for 25 years. And so I didn't want people judging him, and I didn't want people talking bad about him. So I needed to protect that. And so I needed to surround myself with those women that I knew were going to stand with me, that were going to believe for what I was believing for. So just because I didn't say this from the beginning, I knew I was fighting for my marriage. I knew just because he had said I want a divorce, I didn't want a divorce. And I was going to fight tooth and nail, whatever I had to do to get this man back into our lives. Because it wasn't just Jess who was losing a husband. This was, my kids were, losing their family. They were losing not necessarily their dad, but they were losing him being a part of their daily life. I felt like potentially our friends, like, you have this group of friends that you hang out with as couples. Well, that was not going to happen anymore. So I was losing friends. Like, I just wasn't willing to give that up right now. So those hype women were in my corner, and they believed for what I believed, and they were there to encourage me when I just felt like I'm not going to be able to go on. Like, today is a bad day. And they were like, then have a bad day. It's okay to have a bad day, have a bad day. And then the next day I had, God spoke to me, and I feel great today. And okay, great. And we're standing right there with you, and we're praying for you, and we're believing for you. And they were there to have fun with me when I needed to laugh and to enjoy life, and not just this be my everyday daily thinking and process. Like, I needed to get out of that as well. They were there for me as well for that. So those were some of the things that I had done differently than I had done the previous times in struggle.
I think it's important to mention too, I remember, I don't know exactly when you started producing for Life Church.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, you were going to keep doing it, or I don't know if it was starting.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're going to, the fact that you kept volunteering. Anyway, share that a little bit so people know, like, because a lot of times when people go through hard things, I'm not going to serve at church. I'm not going to volunteer. I'm going to, get in a fetal position, and that's it. My life is over. But for you, it was different. You actually kept serving.
So I just felt like from the beginning, God had spoken to me, and he just said, you need to be obedient to whatever I tell you to do. And sometimes it's not going to make sense. And sometimes it's going to be painful. And sometimes you are going to be like, what are you doing, God? Like, I don't even understand why I have to do this, but I just need you to do this. So please just follow what I'm asking you to do. And there were times that he asked me to do things that were so out left field that I was like, what? I'm not doing that. And you're going to do it. And I would do it. And sometimes it produced something, and sometimes it was just, I didn't see anything, but that doesn't mean something wasn't happening. It's just me personally, I didn't see anything. So anyway, in June of 2019, so 5 months after this, had happened, I hear God say to me, you're going to start being a service producer at Life Church Makunji. You need to contact Pastor Ali and let him know. And I was like, you want me to serve in this huge capacity while I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with my marriage? Like, I don't get this, but okay. And so the thing is, I had been asked to service produce years before, when we were all at 1401 Cedar Street, by your husband. And I was like, nope, I'm not ready for that. We had just stopped working for the church, and I was tired. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Give me a break. And then things just started, proceeding with multi-site, and it just didn't work out. So here it is years later, and now God's putting that back in my mind, and I'm like, okay. And so I contact Ali and I'm like, hey, I don't understand it, but this is what I think I'm supposed to be doing this.
Mhm.
Happened very quickly. And within a month, I started service producing. I found it very important for me to continue to live life. I couldn't just sit in my room or sit in my home and be depressed. I had to continue to do the things that made me happy, that filled my soul, that filled up my heart. Those was important to me, to continue to do those things, because I just felt like without that, what I was giving in. I was giving in to what the enemy wanted me to do. Sit in your home, be depressed, hide. You should be embarrassed. You should be ashamed. Don't know. I just felt like I needed to be out, and I needed to do things that I enjoyed in life. So yeah. So what's weird is, through this all, I have finally found my passion as serving in Life Church. Like, this is my passion. I absolutely love producing. I've served at Life Church pretty much my entire 18 years that we've been there, that we have been part of Life Church. And never have I felt like this about serving. I can't wait. I enjoy it. It's just wonderful. So through it, God found purpose for me, which is crazy. So yeah.
That's so good to hear, because I know Jessica very well, and we both share a love and a passion for being a homebody. we we
Yes.
love, we love people. Don't get us wrong, but man, when it's time to be home, we're like, shut the door, close the blinds. We're getting our home on, you know. So
Yep.
I love that. All
Yep.
right. Well, the next question is, what changes occurred in you and in your heart this time around? How did you grow spiritually? And before you answer that, I've known Jessica for a very long time, and even though we're close and we've had a mentoring relationship, and there's so many things that I've learned from her. People, you watch people, and I've known her for a very long time. So I can't wait to hear how you answer this, because I can't wait to add to it. But what
Yeah.
changes occurred in you and in your heart this time around? How did you grow spiritually?
So I would say at the beginning, the first month or so, my focus was all on change this man, bring him back home, restore our family. Those were my daily prayers. Those were my constant prayers, that he would see where he had gone wrong and he would come home. And I remember having a conversation with you, Carmen, one night, and you said, what if this is about God wanting to do something in you? What if this is about God, you finding who you are in Christ? And at first I was like, why would God use such a horrible thing, experience, event, trial to bring that out? And I was like, I reject that. There is no way that that's how God is going to work. But it made me think, as Carmen always does. She makes me think. And so I thought about it. It was at night when we had this conversation. And that morning I woke up and my outlook completely changed. And no longer was my battle anymore about the marriage, which, don't get me wrong, I prayed daily to, open his eyes to what had happened, to restore our marriage. I still prayed those big prayers, and I still believed for what I was believing for. But I also changed my mindset of, Lord, who am I in you? I need to find out who Jess is, not just as a wife, not just as a mom, not just as an associate at Children at Promise, not just as a congregational member at Life Church. I need to know who Jess is, who God says Jess is. And so I started looking it up in the Bible, and I started looking at who he says that we are. And I started writing it down. One thing that I didn't mention is a big part of what I did differently is I kept a journal. I have my journal here. I wrote this every single day. There wasn't a day that went by probably that I haven't written in some capacity. And I remember starting that day for 30 days, I wrote down a different attribute of who God said I was. And it completely changed everything. So the anger, the controlling, the obsessive perfectionism that was in me for so long because of past hurts that I had been carrying, and this is how it was bringing itself out, is through the anger, was through the perfectionism, started to slowly go away. And I wasn't angry anymore. And I didn't care if the shoes weren't all lined up. And I didn't care that the bath towel wasn't perfectly aligned next to each other, or that the vase wasn't turned a certain way. It didn't matter to me anymore. I didn't care that the dishes were in the sink. Oh my God, God forbid there be a dish in the sink when I go to bed. I didn't care anymore. It all dissipated eventually, to the point that even my kids were like, old mom. They would say, oh, if old mom saw what was, like the shoes on the floor, you would have flipped out. And I was like, yep. So if I knew then that there was a different Jess, that old Jess who was not a great mom because she cared more about how her house looked than the hearts of necessarily what my kids were going through. I needed to see certain things in my home. I needed to control their lives and the situations that were happening around me. When I started to see that they saw something different in me, I knew that there was something different happening this time that had never happened before. And then my friends started noticing it. People started noticing it. The way I was talking was different. It wasn't, my life no longer revolved around, and I hate to say this, but I'm sure for a lot of married women, this happens. My life no longer revolved around my husband and his goals and his dreams and what he desired in life. It now became important on what I wanted and I became independent. I'd never been independent before. It had always been, we had to go somewhere. Okay, you have to come along because, we're one now and we always have to be together. It wasn't like that. I was okay to do things on my own. I was okay to do things with my kids, just me and my kids, that it became comfortable. So I feel like that was the biggest turnaround of all of it.
I would have to agree that as our conversations progressed and there were still moments of pain and tears and heartache, but yet there was this woman that was evolving right in front of our eyes, and she was strong, she was confident, she was becoming so much more secure. And I think it's important to mention that while this was all happening, you were in the healing journey. For 29 weeks, at that time, I was a facilitator with Pastor Ruth, and you were a part of that class.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that experience and what that was like for you.
So the healing journey was my counseling. That's basically what I look back at it as. So for October, November, December, January. So for about 3 months, in the class, I'm struggling in my marriage, but we're still together. So a lot of my focus in the class in my mind is on what's happening present. Then this bomb happens and I'm still in the class. I continued to go. Like I was like, I have to go. I have to see this out and see how God knew this was going to happen. this didn't surprise God that my husband walked into the bedroom that day and did that. And I feel like this all happened like at the right time. He orchestrated it all for me to be in the healing journey, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know that the rest of this stuff would have happened, because the healing journey is really big on finding your identity in Christ, finding who you are in him, and not all the other stuff, your family, your wealth, your job. It's not about that. It's about who you are in him. And they're big on that. So I continue to go. I continue to feel my pain through it. And through it, I finally realized that I came for one reason. I came because, I didn't even really know at the beginning why I was there. It was just like, okay, Carmen asked me to come, I'm going to go. So let's try it. And so I didn't really know, but at the beginning, I thought it was for one reason, and then realized it was for so much more. It was for not only the healing of what I was going through, but for the healing of who the old Jess was, to get rid of her and become this new woman. And they helped me through that. I mean, this is shout out to Healing Journey and to Pastor Ruth and to, her team. If you're a woman, you've been through stuff. And I highly recommend going through the healing journey at some point. Listen, I am a person who, like Carmen says, likes to come home at the end of the day and hide out in her bedroom and be by myself. That is my safe zone. I love it there. So to commit for 29 weeks felt very overwhelming. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You can do it. And it is so worth it in the end. You'll be thankful, and you'll be spreading the word. Go through Healing Journey. So
yeah. And I hope by now, those that are listening to this conversation, they're starting to hear there's work involved in this freedom. And, a lot of times as people of faith, we want to just recite a scripture and do two little prayers. And we think that that's it, that a magic wand and poof, the husband's back, and poof, the kids are like, it just doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And many times it's really not hurry up God. It's really hurry up Carmen. It's really hurry up Jess. It's really about us getting into that position and saying, okay, God, I'm tired of going around this mountain. And I know that you want to do something in me, and I have to do the work. But a lot of times people don't want to do the work. They don't want to open up their Bibles. You talked about opening up your Bible. You talked about getting a scripture to stand on. You talked about a journal, and then you had that all on repeat. That sounds like work. That sounds like you and the Holy Spirit in partnership, working through difficult situations. And that's what this faith is all about. I mean, he is not the Oz behind a curtain that we're all going to go visit, and then, and he's going to just, bam, give it to us. Like, that's great if that happens, but in my situation and what I'm hearing here, that's not the case. There's a working, there's a grinding there, there's a back and forth. So yes, shout out to Healing Journey, because that has saved many situations and many relationships. So I have another thought here. I know there are women who might be who judge other women for staying in a relationship when there's infidelity. I know that. I hear it. I'm in conversations. I would be lying if I didn't say I was a part of, who is in with a group of women that says, oh, well, if that were my husband, or if that were my wife, or, right. So what do you say to women who have an opinion about you choosing to stay and fight for your marriage? What do you say to them?
So the first thing that I say is, you have no idea what you would do if you were in that situation. You just don't. Until you walk one day in that pain, you just have no clue how you would walk that out. And I am not judging any woman who says, I'm not doing this and I'm going to walk away. I don't judge that either. That is their choice. That is what is best for them. And I support that as well. If this is not a healthy marriage, if this is not, then go ahead. But I felt like this is what I needed to do. this is what God called me to do. What if, and Carmen and I have talked about this, what if I had just walked away and left the marriage as well and said, okay, I'm giving you what you want. And knowing where he was at that time, that he would have potentially walked away from Christ. What if me staying, fighting, and believing for him and for us saved him from turning his back on God? Like, that is a huge responsibility. Like, I could have been the only person in this world to be able to have saved this man from making a huge mistake and never having a relationship with God again. If nothing else comes out of this battle that I have been in, if that's the only thing that comes out of this, that makes me happy. Like, thank God it's not another lost soul who walked away from Christ. Because I'm sure as you know, any believer for a long time knows people who have walked away from Christ and have never returned back to the church because of pain, hurts, rejection, hypocrisy, whatever their reason is. If I can be the person that fought for him, not saying I saved him, because I didn't save him. That was God's job. That was the Holy Spirit's job. That was Jesus's job. But I was the person that fought and believed and stood every single day for this man to be healed from that pain and whatever he was going through. Then that was what was most important to me. So that's why I chose to continue to fight. And I fought because I wanted my marriage. I did not want to give up on this. This is 25 years, now 26, almost 27 in a few weeks. This will be 27 years of a marriage. I just couldn't see saying, okay, it's been too hard. It would have been, probably for me, it would have been easier to just walk away. That's easy. That's easy it would have been easier. Knowing what I have been through, it would have been easier to just walk away from it all. Now, I don't know what the future would have looked like. That could have been a struggle. That could have been really difficult if I would have walked away. But I chose to take the harder road and fight. And it was hard. I'm not lying to any woman out there who's struggling with something and has to figure this out and stand and believe for whatever it is, that miracle on the other side of this. It's hard. It's not easy. It's going to be work and it's going to be hard. But I believe the little things, the little moments that God showed me through this, it's worth it. It was worth it. It's hard to sit here and say, because if you would have asked me this a year and a half ago, I would probably not have said the same thing. But I'm starting to understand why God did this. He wanted to reveal himself so much more to me than I had ever known him. And the only way that he probably could have done it through my stubbornness was to do something big, huge. He had to do something huge.
Mm-hmm. That's good, Jess. Such self-awareness of, your own heart, and just such vulnerability to, see past all that. It's not easy. One of the things we learn in the healing journey is, we're not responsible for other people's hearts. And well, for a control freak, like most women, like me, I want to control everybody's heart around me, not in a weird way, but just, like you just want to be able to control things. And guess what? We don't have control over other people's hearts. Whether they wander, whether they stay intact, or wherever it goes, we don't. Obviously, when our kids are young, we can influence their hearts and we are responsible for pouring into their hearts. But once they turn 18, obviously our husbands are adults, our wife, we're adults, and our hearts are our hearts. We are responsible for our own heart. We are responsible to surrender that heart to God. But what happens when your spouse doesn't want to surrender that heart to God, doesn't want to surrender their will, their agenda, their mind, their will, and their emotions, which is their soul? That's a challenge. And that's a big part of what a lot of women are dealing with today. But what I love about what happened with you is that your worth began to rise. you just began to evolve and grow. And I just thought, holy moly, like this woman is different. Just the confidence and that you spoke with, and it's been beautiful to witness and to see. So in closing, tonight, what advice do you have for others in a similar situation, and where are you now in your relationship? So what advice do you have for women, and where's the relationship now?
Sure. So the advice that I would give to any woman who is in a really difficult situation, and you have been, either it's brand new or it's been, long time suffering, continue to pray. I know it's so cliche, prayer, prayer works. It absolutely 100% works. Surround yourself with friends, people that will encourage you. If there is somebody in your life that is speaking against what you are believing, get them out of your life for that moment, for that time period. You need people that are with you, not that are going to sit there and speak negativity and the opposite. That's just hurtful and harmful. So absolutely surround yourself with a few women who can support you through this. Feel what you're going to feel. Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have bad days. I still have bad days. I still cry over this on, almost a weekly, if not, daily basis. It's painful, and it's okay to feel your pain. So feel your pain. Feel it. Be angry when you need to be angry. Be sad when you need to be sad. Hold yourself up when you don't want to be around people, and that's okay. But then pick yourself up and move on. Like, once you have those feelings, deal with those feelings. Deal with them. Why am I feeling this way today? Talk to God about it. He will ultimately, every time I have felt a certain way, when I have wanted to give up, when I have said, this is enough, I am not doing this anymore, God has always intervened and showed me, nope, you can take one more step, and this is why you can take one more step. And he's given me that hope. So, that's okay. Like I said before, continue to live life. Don't just roll. I mean, me and Carmen, we talk about it all the time. Don't curl up into a fetal position on your bed and just die like that. That's not helping anything. That's not going to solve one single problem in your life. So just go out and do the things that you enjoy to do. So those are definite, and be obedient to what God tells you to do, even when it seems crazy and even when it makes no sense. Just listen to his voice, spend time with him, and listen to what he has to say, and he will always direct you in the right way. So those are, some of the things that I would definitely say. If you're standing and believing for don't give up. That's probably the biggest thing. Don't give up, because you don't know if tomorrow your miracle's coming. That's the thing that has held me from day one, is what if I give up today and tomorrow my miracle is going to happen? I'm not going to take that risk. I need to keep every day waking up believing today's my day of miracle. And if it didn't happen, okay, well, I can't give up, because what if it's tomorrow? Like, what if God has this right around the corner and we give up? We'll never see it. And so it just, that keep going, keep pressing on. As hard as it is, keep pressing on. And so where my situation is today, unfortunately, he is still not home. However, back in June of last year, he did take a turn, and he realized, I need my family, and I want my family, and I want my marriage. And so he has been, trying to work on this. We have tried, we're trying to work on this. He's not home. He is living outside the house still, but we see each other. We come together as a family. We're actually going on vacation as a family. The biggest thing that God told me at the beginning of all this is, you are going to love your husband through this. And at first I was, love him? First of all, I don't even like him right now. I certainly don't want to love him through this. He did this to me. Why should I love him? But I listened, even when it didn't make sense. And when people were kind of like, what are you doing? I knew that this was how I needed to love him. I know this man better than I know anybody else in this world. And I know what he needed. And I know where his hurts are and his past. And so I know what I needed to do. And so including him in our family stuff is important for us to heal and get back together. So so we're working. It's a struggle and it's a challenge, and we're still, I never considered us apart because I knew God was going to come through with this. But we're living apart, and we're doing life a little separately right now, and it's not where I want it to be. It's not where I want him to be. It's probably not where he wants me to be. So we have, a lot of work to still do. And it's hard every day waking up knowing it's just me. And, I'm doing this by myself right now with my kids, but, I'm going to keep pressing on and standing and believing for that miracle. That's what keeps me going.
Wow. Jess, thank you so much for being honest with the fragile places of your heart. I know that's not easy. I know this conversation isn't easy. Even though we talk many times, I know being recorded and being on the Zoom, it's not easy to go there, but thank you for being honest with those places. And I just took notes on what you said. So for those of you who missed it, she talked about what to do. She said, pray, surround yourself with strong Christians that can believe how you're believing for the situation. She said, live your life, feel what you feel, be obedient to what God says, and don't give up on life and God. So that is a great strategy for those of you that are hurry up with God, standing in a battle, wherever your situation is. And I'm sure in many ways you can relate to Jessica's journey with God. There are many women that can relate to this. You might find yourself in a similar situation, battling and standing and asking God to hurry up. Well, we don't have all the answers today for you or Jess. We don't. I wish I had all the answers and I knew how things were going to end exactly to a T. But we do know that if we stick it out with God, we win. And winning may look different for all of us, but God won't fail us in the end. He won't fail us. So we're going to leave you with two quick verses. Isaiah 40, verse 31. It says, "But those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not faint." That is a promise to us as we are waiting on the Lord, that we're going to grow in strength. We're going to soar like an eagle. We're going to run and not grow weary, and we're going to walk and not faint. And Hebrews 13:5, it says, "For he himself has said, I will not in any way fail you, nor give you up, nor leave you without support. I will not in any degree leave you helpless, nor forsake, nor let you down, or relax my hold on you. Assuredly not." That is God's promise. Hebrews 13:5. He will not, I will not in any degree leave you helpless, nor forsake, nor let you down, or relax my hold on you. You are loved. Keep standing. Keep encouraging yourself in the Lord. That is something Jessica is doing, has been doing since day one, encouraging herself in the Lord. So keep fighting the good fight of faith, ladies. We'll see you. Have a great night. Thank you. Bye.